It looks like we could be live. So let me see. Let me double check. Yeah, let me turn my volume speaker off. All right, so yeah. All right, you guys, I'm your brother Anuhazi, and with Christos Avatar TV. And today we have an incredible honor of speaking with Tom Althouse, the real author behind what's called the Immortals, whose work was stolen and transformed into what the world knows as the Matrix franchise. And today we have the incredible honor of speaking with Tom Althouse, the real author. And so his story goes far beyond a simple case of copyright theft. His original vision carried deep spiritual, symbolic, and you would say metaphysical truths, messages about humanity's entrapment, the awakening, the nature of reality itself. So while the world celebrates The Matrix as a film about awakening, few realize it was like layered with actual like black magic conversions. I mean, even black magic used against Tom. And he'll be talking about some of that and distorted, from its original spiritual aligned message. So tonight, Tom shares the truth, the real journey, the real message, and the battle he's faced behind the scenes, to protect not just his work, but the truth that belongs to all of us. So many people love this film. So please welcome Tom Althouse. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, brother. Glad to have you with us.
Well, I was born in this world and I felt like I never fit in. People always said, you don't belong, you don't fit in. They say you're too nice. And that's really wild because the first part of my life is being told, everybody loves you. The second part, after I write the piece, I'm told basically you're a narcissist, you're evil, that kind of stuff by the Cabal's agents. So it's been a complete flip. But it's a writer, sculptor, painter, musician, composer, all that stuff just came to me even at a very young age. So I was just couldn't turn it off. And what they attribute to Elon Musk now as saying he couldn't turn it off at 5 years old, well, that's me. That's what I couldn't do. And so I have shelves and shelves full of like inventions, ideas, things like that, that I just had to write it down. You have to. And then you compile that with the idea like we share about wanting to have a better world. There's no end to it. You don't get much sleep.
Yeah, beautifully said, brother. And it is kind of like a spiritual war going on.
Very much.
Um, I want to say, when you were writing The Immortals, what was your original inspiration that sparked the storyline?
I was in the presence of the power. It was like, what I attribute to God. It was like I was asking if there is a God, then, and if the Bible's true, if we are your children, then why wouldn't we be able to prove ourselves to our father or parents and being given that opportunity? Why would it be written down that we're going to go through tribulations and horrible things and desperate times and end times? Why couldn't we be given the chance to show we're worthy and please our parents? So what happened was after that, everything just ignited. It was like suddenly the whole screenplay, this whole thing became prophetic. And it was like everything came true, even the fake Oval Offices in here, the squiddies, the red pill, blue pill, the little girl at the train station, the robot-like agents. I mean, the fake second coming, everything's here. And so that I believe was given after I went through a period where I had to learn extreme humility and genuine compassion. I thought I had it, but apparently I had to learn much more that it was a discipline. And that translated into my character, the Neo character in the original work. That's why he is as he is. Now, what the Wachowskis did with that was they changed it around and made him really an unsympathetic kind of character who was confused and lost, but you have to put the compassion back in to make the film tie together.
So that was actually your Neo, right, brother?
That's why
So
they named him Thomas A. That's right. They named him Thomas A to mock the author. I didn't call it Thomas A. I called him Jim Reese. They named him Thomas A after the author and also Neo. They double named him. You don't do that in writing. You're not supposed to. That's basically writing 101. Don't double name your main character. It'll confuse your audience. But they did.
yeah, and so what was your original name for like Neo or Tom? Was it have a different name in the Immortals?
Jim Reese, which
Oh,
is
okay.
very interesting because in the original work, Reese is indicative of a human resources director at the Rockefeller's group, David
Mm.
Rockefeller's group at CW when I was being groomed and fooled. They played the rescue thing where they came and said, okay, come here. When the religious right was destroying my life, they said, here, come here. They were offering me the best housing. They were going to offer me a directorship, which is above vice presidents, all that stuff. Use your talents here. So that's where I ended up after the submission and after I was being taken on by the religious right. It's a complex story. The Cabal does not see eye to eye with itself. There are many facets that battle and compete with each other. And so if you're considered a resource and asset inside the Cabal, gifted genius, something like that, who produces work they really like, then you'll be bounced around like a ping pong ball. And Disney even had their hand of being like really taking me in and really shutting me down. They played both sides of it also. So it's a very tumultuous grouping of individuals and organizations.
Well, they want to take your skill set, your creativity, your vision, and make it their own, benefit from your imagination and energy. Isn't that what you feel like it was?
Absolutely. And plus, it's a distraction game, like the peas and the cups, because what they did was they made me feel like they were grooming me, taking care of me after what had happened to me, where I lost everything. It wasn't the case. Really, I look at it now as a stalling tactic where they kept me appeased while they went on with the theft, orchestrating, and art of war, where they're setting up everything, judges in place, everything's going on behind the scenes for when they pull the rug and all forces are aligned against you at that point.
Yeah. So I want to say, ask, at what point did you realize, that the Matrix was based on your work? I mean, is it something you saw or some people were telling you about it?
Great question. What actually happened was there was a honeypot wife named Rebecca Northcutt. She was supplied by Mike Lang of Disney, who is the same guy who's over Harvey Weinstein that said that he is in 1993, formed Miramax Films to launder other people's works. So when I talk like this, you'll see thread on thread, all these players in place, one leads to another. So the honeypot wife's handler on Maui, when I was on Maui, before she came to me, was the attorney that was supplied to throw our case with a suspended license, Tony Rankin. She's housed by him, appointed by Mike Lang at Disney. Everything's set in place. And then she enters my life and has access to everything. Now to your question. How do I find out it's taken? On the statute of limitations, which is 10 years, if you haven't had any inkling of what's going on. So 1999 it's released, 2009 is deadline time. In 2009 is when she came to me and said, honey, look, because we're married at that point. It worked. She got in. She showed me the train station scene with the little girl, and she showed me the little girl pointing to the sun. She showed me on a site, and with an entry that said, an author got screwed. An author somewhere, which was an anonymous posting on that site. So what she was doing is making sure I was fed what would make me go, oh my gosh, they took our work. And that's when they brought in, through her, the attorney with a suspended license, who was classmates with Warner Bros. Attorney, to throw the case. So that's how they did it. They completely had everything in order, and they brag about that.
Oh, his license was expired.
Expired
Right?
for about 12 years. Yeah. He said he forgot
Okay.
when he went to file. Yeah.
So that works in their favor if they ever need to backtrack on something, right?
Well, what they were going to claim was that he was just a family friend and that I didn't have an attorney and that I sat on my rights. And then you see all the news, oh, he lost his case. The one thing he did, though, at the end, when he had solicited us and promised us the world, $100,000, he'll put it in his own pocket, from his own pocket. He'll get a copyright attorney. He'll see this through. None of it. And what happens is when we try to get rid of him in the end, after he ran the clock out already with a suspended license, he says he refused to be fired, but calls Warner Brothers, his classmates from University of Berkeley, their attorneys immediately. And within half an hour, he's told them they could proceed to summary judgment without any objections, which means the case is thrown. That's why the news articles say, he lost his case. No, it's all fraud. It's all fraud. And the one player that one of the things they'll say is, you had your day in court. We did not have our day in court. No, we did not. Everything was fraud. Everything was blocked. Everything was thrown in the most egregious ways. And we have the proof of that. That's part of our upcoming case, is to show all of that. So we are coming back. The attorneys for Warner Brothers know it. They're sweating bullets. And it's made clear Disney knows it through Bob Iger. So what we know is the top people are afraid. The minions just haven't caught on yet.
Yeah. So seems like they're just using this corrupt system to take your information. And I want to say, what personal information did you notice? Like, there's something peculiar about your case. They actually, embedded in the film something that was undeniable, pointing at you. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, that's some of the incredible stuff. That's why the Wachowskis were actually disciplined. Now, Larry didn't care. He was giddy to look like a woman. He likes to, he's kind of wild. The Andy guy, his brother, didn't want to be looking like a woman, but he was punished for putting my personal information into the film. This is where it's hard for me because I'm like, if it's right there in every CD or even VHS, you can find every digital copy, you're going to find my high school, my birthday, my name, my fiance.
Well, it was a split second though, right?
It's very much a split second upside down. Their graphic designer, Susanna Bolgen, in an article that she did, said that anything for a split second is for the director's eyes only to keep the project interesting for them. And this is in, for a split second, as you said, upside down. And it's the first graphic they rendered in the first scene they shot, which was the first scene I wrote. So when you look at these parameters, I mean, this evidence, it's like, it's a no-brainer. So Warner Brothers had to do something to throw it. Yeah, if you can play that, you can see how fast that flashes.
Yeah,
that'd be great. Go ahead. So this is the first scene, and even the actors had no direction. Keanu Reeves had no direction on what to do or how to act. And it's interesting. I think you have to go to presentation. But yeah. But what's wild is it flips open just for that split second upside down. Yeah, and the actor, there it is, what's on there. And the actors had no direction because this is only why the first footage they shot was to mock the author. Mm-hmm. And that's why you see at the top there in the orange, July 22nd. Well, that's what my records were being changed to. USAA Insurance contacted me, or when I was contacting them, they said, yeah, there's a record from 1996 that says that your birthday is July 22nd. And I'm like, oh, interesting. So they knew that. The agencies were involved in this theft. And then you see the high school, Central West High, on there. Central West High is my high school. That's my alma mater. Then you have my fiance's birthday, March 11th. You got my name, Thomas A. You got my dad's name, John A. You got my marital status. You got TA 4099 in the column. And you got 380, which is numerology, to take someone's most cherished worldly possessions to help them prepare for their death, which is a cruel joke. So what you got is, yeah, all there.
They want to say it's a coincidence, or that's impossible. The mathematics behind that all being, just one of those figures, much less all those figures on that one image, flash for a second, upside down.
You're right.
It's an inside thing. Nobody's going to really notice.
And how many high schools are there in the world? How many high schools? I mean, how could it be that one plus the dad's name, all that stuff? And then Michelle McGahee, the art director, to complete the joke, who was responsible for the graphic also, is the mom. And Owen Patterson, the production manager, is the other school. And what's interesting is, if you look at the screenplay here, it's 128 pages. It's copyrighted, sealed, everything. The entries for Warner Brothers has nothing with Matrix.
Copyright sealed.
Yeah, copyright sealed, PAU number. That's why the Sophia Stewart squad that keeps coming and trying to harass.
We'll talk about her.
PAU number. It's right there. You can't get around that. It's a PAU number. Now, Sophia Stewart's claiming it's a forgery. The one that claims to be the mother of the Matrix, hired by Warner Brothers to be a first claimant to throw people off, to say, oh, we already heard this before. And what you have too is the signatories are there. It's no way around it. You can't say it. It's a forgery. Anybody can't do that. You can't do it. But it's 128 pages with music, stamped and everything. Sophia Stewart's, by the way, is 33 pages. She doesn't even call it a screenplay. She never wrote a screenplay. She wrote a manuscript, she calls it. So 33 pages, that's 33 minutes of film time.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. There's a lot of chatter about Sophia Stewart, and I've even seen messages in our post about it, saying she's the original creator who claims to have written The Matrix. Could you clarify for everyone where her narrative came from and how it differs from the actual facts of the story? And you guys notice Tom is in the movie. Do you see her personal information in the movie, right?
That's where she flipped out too. She absolutely flipped out because she was calling me. She was doing it on behalf of Warner Brothers, calling me, trying to get me sidetracked to not claim Matrix 1. And incidentally, I just want to throw this in. We were never able to claim Matrix 1. Matrix 1's where the inserts are. So that's why if anybody says, oh, we can't do the case, that's BS. We can do the case. Matrix 1 and Altered Carbon and the rest of them, we can do it because they stopped us from claiming it. And we got the proof they stopped us. And we are always trying. So we're in very good shape. Very good shape. Now, if I go to my file here, I'm going to just call this up real quick. Let me see if I can go to the presentation. Anyway, so as far as, I'm just going to try to scroll down to this real quick. Go to presentation mode. I want to play this for you because I think it'll really make sense if I do this. So you'll see exactly what this guy said if I'm able to get through it. 1 second. Hold it. Pause it. Pause. Come on. I'm having trouble with my PowerPoint too.
That's okay. We got it.
Just like I did at the event.
Alien event.
Yeah. I had trouble getting this stuff to go.
We don't think they're
Oh, goodness gracious.
enough.
All right, let's skip it. I can't get it up.
Is it in the files that
It's
I
in
have?
the files I sent you. Yeah, it's the Sophia Stewart with the Sophia Stewart pictures.
Yeah, let
So
me
I'm just
pull.
not, yeah. See if you can get it. It had to be in presentation mode, but it's worth playing. It'd be down farther. And
Oh, wait, sorry.
it's okay. If it'll play for you. So, yeah.
Can you see the side thing?
I can see it. I see it. Yeah.
Farther down?
I'll show you when it gets to, yeah, much more. Reversing the red pill, blue pill is incredible too. There's her hand. That's
yeah,
that's this attorney with the suspended license on the bottom of the page. It says suspended. Go ahead on, and we'll get you to it. There's Sophia Stewart.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, there she is, and there's her summary judgment against her. And her friend request to me is the next slide. She sent me a friend request while she's putting me down at the same time as being
Sophia did.
Sophia Stewart. That's her right there. Her company's called All Eyes on Me. Writer, director, producer. All Eyes on Me. That's
nice ego there.
I know. And she says, I'm the egomaniac. Go ahead, keep down. Go ahead down farther and see if we can get it. See if it's in there. This is all wild stuff. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, we're so grateful to have you share it, brother.
I'm glad to do it. Okay, I don't know if it's going to show up here.
Maybe.
It's not there. All right, don't. It's not there. Okay, so.
I'll always put that link in the after the
Yeah,
show.
put the link in. That'll be good. I'm going to see if I can get it to go here, by the way. So I'm just going to scroll down and see if I can do it on my end. But the thing is that this guy named David Klein, he went through her entire work and read it, everything, and then commented on it. And he said, it's nothing to do with the Matrix at all. There's nothing in there at all. In fact, the content is Star Wars mixed with the Bible. That's what she did. So she plagiarized two of the major things, mixing Star Wars with the Bible. But there's nothing at all where we have all the matchups, from you name it, from Squiddies to Jackson Neck to everything. So I don't see it on mine either.
I think you sent me the link, right?
I did. I sent it an email, but I didn't think you had time to look. So, but yeah, it's worth playing. That clip is just.
Oh, I found the link. So let me put that in chat.
Oh, if you can get that up, that'd be perfect. Yeah, put that in chat. That'd be beautiful. So I found it just now. I don't know how loud my volume is on this, but I don't know if it'd be kind of muddied playing it this way. Let me see if I can actually get it to go.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's cool.
I'm gonna see if this will work.
It's too long. The URL's too long. So
what's this?
2100, a lady named Isius became infatuated with a man and has a one-night stand with him. He disappears after that night, but fortunately, as it turns out, this was God. I mean, my God. And she has a baby boy she names Jesus, or rather, Icon. Icon is hidden away from Morningstar in the desert until he's a teen, at which point he's secretly placed in Morningstar.
Doesn't look like the Matrix.
Icon becomes a prominent.
That's good, brother. That's good.
And a new starship named Space Star.
Where are the starships in the
Don't
Matrix?
mind my drawing. The ship is the shape of a pyramid with a top that comes off. He has a bunch of visions of an eyeball and learns from the Star Wars Rebel Alliance that the government is evil and they're going to ask him.
That's good. That's good.
Receives the command to do so. He uses Jedi powers to trick the evil forces and escapes with the ship.
Star Wars in the Bible.
Star is evil. He then has a bunch of space missions until arriving at the planet with the third eye. We've reached the title of the book, and we're almost
All right.
to stretch.
Watch this now.
Icon decides he's willing to die for the third eye, and in doing so, reawakens as the chosen one and saves everybody who are now all naked and proud. The end. So the story has
Nothing. And
All
that's
people-
so wild is like there's absolutely nothing at all. It's nothing. It's Star Wars and the Bible. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's only 33 pages. So that's why it's been irksome to have her assigned to me, along with working with the attorney that had a suspended license to make sure I never claim Matrix 1. But now we're coming back to claim Matrix 1, and we got them with everything in there. Now, some will say latches, statutes, and Warner Brothers is trying to scream that too, but they know there's no chance, given the condition I have after my sons were murdered, and I was told they were doing this. It gave PTSD. There is no statute of limitations when you have a condition because you can't argue your own case. So, therefore, there is no latches. Warner Brothers, you're out of luck. And since you did everything to destroy everything we got, including break-ins, you name it, we can go to court. Yes, we can, because Matrix 1, we never got a chance to claim it. We always wanted to. And they did everything to stop us. Now, the interesting aspect of this also is that why are the missing drafts that attorney Rankin, Tony Rankin, took from our home when he was supposedly representing us with a suspended license, why then are they now returned? All these have been returned. This is the original draft back from 1993. You can see the date there. So this original draft, and the reason there's X's on it is because it was being revamped later in other drafts. And it says here that these corrections were done in 1994, Christmas 1994, which is, right after Christmas, January 1994, which is basically right after Christmas 93. So this is what is going to blow the wind out of the sails of Warner Brothers, is because they were trying to claim that there was no working drafts, no scripts until 1996. But here's another entry that was returned to my house. And at the top, it says 1995, when I was at the Rockefellers group, with Patricia Fike from California in her handwriting signed throughout. Now, what's interesting is this had been stolen by Tony Rankin and returned 2 days, just 2 days before Easter, just returned. So these were all returned to my home. And that only way I could see it is agents had done it, agencies who are now at odds with Warner Brothers. And here's another one. Another one returned to my home with a stack. Was Greg Mazer, the guy I did the battle sequences with. This is the 1993 version with, even courtesy, his return letter to me inserted. So they did everything. And what's interesting, one more thing, there's actually 4 of these returned all at the same time, 2 days before Easter. Now, see how this doesn't have the cover sheet? This one has the cover sheet. Because Rankin, Tony Rankin, when he was at our house on Maui in 2010 on a Saturday, he was working with the attorneys from Warner Brothers, his classmates, on the phone. He got a call on a Saturday at our home, supposedly over for dinner, and says, I have to take this. You have to leave the room. After he said, is this all the evidence you have on the dining room table? We said, yes. And then his phone rings. I got to take this call. You have to leave your own dining room. Really? So then he took the cover page of this, stole this, and shoved the cover page down in my son's Aiden's art box. And we have the damaged art still from that box. Shoved it down there with a poor man's patent he had ripped open and resealed, taking the full script out. So this is back, not with a cover page, because we always had the cover page. Yeah. We just didn't have this. Does that make sense? I mean, just how big this is. And what do you think in the fact that who returned this stuff? It was in Warner Brothers' vault, basically. It was in their offices, their attorneys' offices. How'd this get returned to us? Is this their attorneys trying to do a leg up since they know we can do this now and their minions are the last ones figuring it out? Or is there conflict within the agencies or the Cabal itself where now they're all turning on each other? Are we back to being a really valuable asset again where they want us to go ahead and rise and Elon's falling? These questions are important. And I don't even have a solid take yet on what is actually happening. All I do know is we have the evidence to win now, hands down. And Warner Brothers' strategy of saying no working drafts before 96 has just been destroyed. And you figure that George Michael actually lost his life in Christmas of 2016, when the case was fully thrown and these were gone, and Rankin allowed them to proceed to summary judgment without objection, which means that's the only way you can win a summary judgment. And it's all over the news, you lost. They kill George Michael on Christmas, saying his heart gave out.
Wait, he was going to be part of your music?
He was our witness, because look at the
witness
page.
okay.
Let me hold it up. The last page of this right here, which can't be refuted, Sophia Stewart. The last page has George Michael praying for time and credits. So what happened was George Michael read this full script before I submitted in 93 and gave permission to go ahead and submit it. And his words he said was exactly this: go ahead and send it in and we'll see how it goes. Mm-hmm. We sent it in. So he's the best witness that it was a full script in 93. Now also, that defeats the strategy, so they had to kill him. But the thing is, he's a good man. With these all being restored, George Michael there was no reason for him to die. Mm-hmm. All this is back. And now on the airwaves, you're starting to hear that George Michael wasn't killed. I don't know. I don't know. I'll take that with heaps of salt, because if he had survived, I would say he's going to contact me. He knows what we went through. He's got a good heart. He would have sent something, even cryptic, to let me know. So I don't agree personally with the idea he's still alive. I think he lost his life in this situation because he was the best witness, and I agree with him.
Well, Tom, a few people have lost their life. You mentioned your sons earlier. Could you talk about that a little bit, and bless you and the pain that you went through?
Yes, both my sons, which Sophia Stewart will call me and mock me about intermittently. She'll call, and I've recorded her a number of times, where she'll call and say, you're responsible for your son's deaths. You were in a call to you.
Didn't she like talk in a weird voice to you too?
Yes, she does. Yes, it's like, that's what, it's like when you hear the thing, she went like this. On the one call, she went, I've got the letter, I've got the letter, I've got the letter. I'm like, what? This isn't a playground, but it's on tape. She's saying it because she had my submission or my question letter about Demolition Man to Warner Brothers from 2001. And she claimed that letter will make her millions because it means that she succeeded in her job for Warner Brothers to down the author. So that's what she was bragging about. It wasn't about winning in court. It was about getting the 5 to 7 million she was promised in a letter from Kate Chilton of Warner Brothers, who was at my deposition, who promised her that if she handled the author and downed him publicly, that she would get $5 to $7 million from Warner.
Wow.
Now, what's interesting is that letter was never supposed to be shown. But because Warner Brothers said to her, we don't need to pay you, the case has been sufficiently thrown in 2016. They were telling her, as the case was thrown in 2013 and then finalized in 2016, they said, we don't need you now. So we're not giving you the 5 to 7 million. Because she said, I want my money from the period of 2009 to 2013. Because they said they're not going to give her the money, she posted it on her site, the letter, the conspiracy letter, in order to show that she was being promised money from Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And when we were told about it and pointed it out, two things happened right away. Sophia Stewart struck it from her site, and Kate Chilton resigned as a superior court judge immediately, same day, right? And the head of Warner Brothers that was cover up from 93 resigned also, this woman. All the same time, because Sophia Stewart wanted to brag, like Wag the Dog, the producer, like the director or producer of Wag the Dog. She wanted to brag. She wanted to show that she's getting money, millions from Warner Brothers. Yeah. So she put up the conspiracy letter. Yeah. It's insane.
So there's probably a lot of events that led to your sons, by the way, right?
My sons, they were killed, and we have a tape of Disney. So you can see me switch up now because it's like, now at full force. Which I do feel their presence, by the way. Which Sophia Stewart says they never existed. Thanks, Sophia. Including my present son. Sean,
she sounds like a witch, man.
She's a witch. She was in Manhattan before she was brought in by Warner Brothers. She was a failed writer out of USC, and she had been somebody in Manhattan that you'd pay her to put curses on people. Yeah. That's what she did. So they brought her in as an in-house witch. Yeah. And so what you have is my son Sean Michael, my other son Kirk Daniel were killed, and Disney let me know on a tape that it was supposed to make me behave myself. They said that they know I'm concerned for my last living son's safety because that was a threat that if I spoke, revealed things like I'm doing right now, they'd kill him. And there are players that'll come forward and say, shame on you, Tom. You're a jerk or rotten for doing this, putting your last son at risk. The same tape from Disney says, as my son urged me, that we've won the chess game by speaking up. My son was right. By bringing it out, they've not harmed him now. Now we're full-fledged. Plus, we did a second thing. We buried our other screenplays that they're interested in, that they can't be found, not even staples in them. And I told them on that same conversation, it's taped, same conversation with one of the heads of Disney, their attorneys, that I would not reveal them to them. I would destroy these scripts if anything happened to Aiden. And you hear this response, you can't do that, very stern. They're not interested in life, children's lives. They're interested in intellectual property and the money they can make. Mm-hmm. So they even said, how do we know you're not just a two-hit wonder? You need to show us this. Two-hit wonder. You're just admitting you took my work. And that my play that's greenlighted for off-Broadway, The Domestics, is also who that attorney that was housing the honeypot wife, right, on Maui, Tony Rankin, also housed for a period of time the Broadway director that did Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, Terry Berliner. And Terry Berliner took me under wing as under contract at the same time and wanted me to do my theater piece on Broadway with Disney. So there you go. So it was, then they say two-hit wonder. It's all connected. That's why it's so important when the case is actually brought forward on Matrix 1 and Alder Carbon and Oblivion and Sense8 and Elysium and all those.
Wow.
So yeah, because when they threw the case,
that's Neuralink, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And when they threw the case, all the defendants announced new works. Disney held Oblivion for Joel Silver, that claims to be the producer of The Matrix. He was defendant, so he gets Oblivion handed over to him, and they didn't even complete the novel. They skipped. They said, we're not going to complete the novel. It's not needed now. We don't need a plausible source material because the author's dead in the water. We snowed him. They bragged about how much I was being screwed. So they didn't even complete the novel and announce Oblivion. There's all the things in there, the identical figures facing off, the little girl pointing the son and father at the end. Okay. Then the Wachowskis announced that it's too big to write down and got $1 million deal with Netflix to do Sense8, right when the case was thrown. But the main person for Warner Brothers, that lady that was handling Sophia Stewart, that did the letter for her, suddenly goes from being the attorney, litigation exec, top exec from Warner Brothers, to litigation content control at Netflix. So she goes to Netflix, and the defendants launder through Netflix, Sense8, Alder Carbon, and the rest. Isn't that something? The trail isn't breadcrumbs, it's steak chunks. And we got them all the way. Even TMZ, owned by Warner Brothers, one of the correspondents, Chris from TMZ, said, you were smart enough to write the story. You're smart enough to follow the trail. That they screwed up. They screwed up. Which raises a question also that audiences ask, why they do this to you? Why they just give you the credit? Because I cared too much is the answer. Disney and the rest believe in power, they said. The attorney said, it's all about power. If you have compassion, you're a problem. The honeypot wife told me the same thing. Tom, you're too kind, you're too nice, they're never going to work with you unless you realize the laws of nature, she said. She actually said that. The laws of nature. Well, what's the laws of nature? That the strong prey on the weak. It's in that series they did with Hell on Wheels, where the main guy who owns the stock or is directing the railroad construction from the East End forward is saying that the zebra and the lion. So what they're saying is that is the philosophy of Hollywood and the Cabal. And I'm supposed to be a lion, groomed to be a lion, but they say that I'm being a zebra. I care too much. But the caveat to create this work, back to your first question about when I was creating the work, I had to have compassion and humility. That was the order before I receive it. So the message to Hollywood and the Cabal is, and the agencies, you can't do the great work channeling through unless you have these elements. You have these elements, we can have a better world. Compassion and humility, which then begs the question, who's guiding us? I would say it's a benevolent group that's giving us these ideas. God, parentals, others.
Oh, brother, I want to ask you, since you mentioned that, this idea for the film, this storyline, this script, could you explain how that was kind of a spiritual experience to you?
was completely a spiritual experience, and it was done in a way that I would understand. Being a good Christian young man at the time, I took it with that lens when I got the presence, and I felt myself being lifted off the floor after I'd said, like I said, if we are God's children, then why can't we prove ourselves? And but basically, I was asking for the Job story without realizing it, and yeah. But the thing was, I got this answer: the cup will be given you; it won't be taken away. What cup? A Christ cup, which means the suffering of Christ. I'm not Christ. I'm not all eyes on me. I am conditioned to render what I'm given, to lay out everything, and the message has come with a lens I had. And so what's interesting is I felt lifted, and I felt like witnesses around me, and I got the word, "You'll be honored in the heavens, but not on the earth." And boy, did that come true. And so, but I had to do the work faithfully. And then I felt like some negative word came in my mind, and I felt like the presence went. I'm like, no, I was learning like a child would learn. I wanted the presence back. And so I learned to clear my mind for the presence to come back of only positive thoughts, layers of positive thoughts. Then I learned that I was supposed to learn true humility and true compassion before I even put pen to paper. And so then I learned that. That's what's so funny about the agencies choosing and religious right saying egotistical maniac, narcissist, because I'm the guy on the planet that went through the full training of not being that and gave everything away.
Well, what you're talking about is kind of like a higher self or a spiritual version that is assisting, which is you, a higher identity of you, what we talk about here. So that's amazing what's going on with this background.
Well, here's a wake-up call. You just made me think of it. A wake-up call for our whole world and all of us in it. I was given the words, "I looked for someone and found no one." Now, who was saying that wasn't defined. I looked for someone and found no one. I went like this. I went, "I'll do it. I'll do it." So was I chosen? I volunteered without knowing what I was volunteering for. If I had known what I was volunteering for, would I have chosen? I don't know. You know, after losing my sons and everything else, and my daughter and everything else, and all the shame and all the ripping off and all the poverty, and the murders, would I say yes? With me now, present with you before you, I would say yes. Me back then, I don't know if I could have handled the shock. If it had been shown to me like a Vulcan mind meld of what I was going to go through, right? So therefore, the statement that I was given, "I looked for someone and found no one," is actually still applicable with the events that unfolded, because I volunteered not knowing what I was volunteering for. And that's when I was given the word, "The cup will be given to you and it won't be taken away," the Christ suffering cup. And I was like, oh no, what have I done? That was my reaction at first. So obviously that kind of gives a hint. Would I have been as great courage at the time if I'd seen what would have happened? Seeing my sons die? So yeah, but I volunteered without knowing. I'm glad I volunteered without knowing. I'm glad we're at the end of it, at the end of the Job story. And now we can succeed and we can alter the timeline, or at least converge the timeline back to what it's supposed to be. The Cabal took the timeline out of flux and took people that were supposed to succeed and put them in lower strung and put failures in place. That's how you alter the timeline. Failures in place. Keanu Reeves failed. The work was given to him to save his career. Elon Musk failed. He was given the tech to save his career. And
wait, did you say Keanu Reeves?
Keanu Reeves, they went to save his career, and then they promoted him, PR'd him as the saddest man in Hollywood and the most caring man. No, he's drinking with his buddies and doing drugs with his alcohol biker friends. What's going on really is he was saved by the suits, and the suits demanded at Warner Brothers that he be Neo. It wasn't the Wachowskis that picked him. They wanted Sean Connery or Will Smith. It was the suits that picked Keanu Reeves to save his career after Johnny Lightning. He can't act.
You notice he's being propped up as being such a kind, caring person, though, right?
All PR by Hollywood. All Hollywood PR. The more Hollywood does the PR on you, the more you have accepted the gravy. The more you've accepted what they want. And that goes for Mel Gibson, too. He is very much a player who the only moment of brightness he really had as far as revealing what's going on was when he was inebriated. He was inebriated and started talking about the Zionists in Hollywood and all this stuff, blurting it out. And then he was made to apologize by the Zionists in Hollywood. And he apologized for what he had said. So only in an alcoholic fever was he able to actually speak the truth. Other than that, he's benefited greatly because Joel Silver, the guy who did Oblivion, worked with Disney and took my work, is the one that did the ripoffs of Oblivion, Alter Carbon, all that stuff. He's the one that gave Mel Gibson his break with Forever Young after Gallipoli. He gave him Forever Young. And that work is the first part of my screenplay, where you're trouncing through the rainforest and lowering down, and the monkey is there, and the people are helping each other, and boots pounding by. That's all the opening scene of Outbreak. Forever Young is in there. They gave him Forever Young. Forever Young is where the officer is cryogenically preserved, and they really did a bad job bringing him back with that scene. Forever Young. It was awful the way they rendered it. They didn't care. It was an insurance film. So it doesn't matter how much quality you put in, you're going to collect from the insurance. So that's why the Wachowskis had a book called their Bible, which was how to make a million in Hollywood without losing a dime, which is make B movies, put least amount of effort into it, less cost into it, and you make a profit off the insurance. See? So what happens is, as if a write-off. So what happened, or failure. So they gave him Forever Young. You have the Allied officer who finds his wife, who's aged when he comes back, named Helen. And she hasn't aged, he hasn't aged, and she has. Well, in the beginning of the Immortals, you have the character who's revealing what's going on with Neo's agency. They find this character running through the rainforest, basically, and appearing to his wife, Helena, in DC. So you have the, again, preserved cryogenically officer coming back and finds his wife, Helena, in Forever Young at the same time after I submitted. They're doing it with Mel Gibson, saving his career by having Helen. He goes and sees her after being cryogenically preserved. That's why you have the field of pods, and that's why they made the cryogenic field of pods, which was the primaries of the architect being experimented on secondaries that match them physically, so they'd be safe in their regeneration. That's how you have field of pods. One by one, they're brought back, suffering, spewing in the liquids and everything else. So they decided to lift that up with a visual storyboard and make it about battery power. Yeah, no, it isn't about battery power.
Well, I want to ask, maybe people aren't aware of it, but your script, The Immortals, they actually stole a lot of ideas and made several different movies, including the ones you just mentioned, right? Could you list some more movies?
Absolutely. Gosh, help us. It's like Elysium, not even script. You had Blomkamp, or whatever his name is, who did District 9, and even said, writing is like pulling teeth for him, right? The guy that did Elysium. And he said, too, the scene that made me want to do the project, he didn't write it. He even said that. The scene that made me want to do it was the one with the barbed wire and the people looking through the barbed wire at the elite section they can't be part of. Mm-hmm. That's ours. That's what the train station scene is. So he's saying that that's what got him to want to do the work, and writing is like pulling teeth, so it wasn't a script. Matt Damon or whatever wasn't shown a script. Mm-hmm. So they have the whole thing with the, thing on the back of the neck with the showing what he's thinking and saying.
Yeah, Neuralink. That's like a Neuralink reference.
It's right there, right, which is from ours. Yeah. And Warner Brothers attorney said, you don't have Jack's back of the neck. And I'm like, yeah, it's all through this. I opened blindly to this and it was there. So they didn't like that. That's the first thing they tried to grill me on. No, Jack's the neck. Because they wanted to claim Neuralink. And I even called it Neuro Enhancer, right? The neuro mind.
A positive thing that's supposed to help your brain or intelligence, but not something that goes in your head, though.
Not link us and enslave us. Absolutely right. And so what's interesting is that those pages were restored to my house. When I got back from the Tampa event, that event, when I came back, the missing pages that were stolen were on my bed. And I was like, someone broke into my house and restored very important stuff that relates to Neuralink, my credit for Neuralink. Mm-hmm. See, because in the screenplay, I have brain enhancer. In the script pages that were the development after that, it was neuro enhancer. So what's interesting is they restored what they had taken precisely like a surgeon out to keep us from going again. That was restored. And then I was thankful, and saying how thankful I was on the air that this happened, and crediting it to the agents, who in the original work here, the agents switched sides. In the end, they join our side. In the end, everybody talks about the military, but it was the agents in the screenplay that switched sides. Smith and Neo are both department heads in the CIA
Wow.
in the screenplay. That's why they wanted to launder it too, because they were bad. I mean, the organizations were bad. So Smith is in a higher department and closes down Neo's department. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
So therefore, it definitely caught their eye, because CIA then becomes central in the future in the one world order. Central. That is where the room of monitors is, where they're monitoring everything. It's not the architect's bad rerun man cave where he's got all those screens on the wall. It is, those screens make no sense when they put it there. And then they have him channel changing with that silver pen. They took it all out in a visual storyboard, lifting what they thought was cool and thought they can reconstruct it on set. So instead, when you go back to the original, the room of monitors belongs to Smith.
Well, let me ask, in your script, is there a bunch of images? Are you the artist who made those images?
Yeah. So what you got is, let me see if I can find the, here's the transport station or train station scene. But let me go to, sorry, I'm so fast on this.
No, while you're
Room of
looking for that.
monitors. Let me see if I got this here. Interrogation room. Everything's here. Like I said, even the fake Oval Office.
I just want to say to people that if you guys remember in the Matrix, Neo they put that thing behind his head, just like Neuralink is trying to do, put something inside your brain to be linked up.
And there's a lot of bad things. Look at this right here. Look at this right here. I got it right here. Let me show this to you. So here's the original thing, copyrighted, bolded, everything. There it is. The room monitors.
Yeah.
The room monitors. And it's listed as central monitoring room. That's Smith's room, where every agent, what they feel and is on the monitors, and then they're terminated if they show feeling. They're not, it's humans, not robots. Joel Silver got it wrong. Get this. Joel Silver got it wrong in Matrix. He argued to the execs when they said, we know we have something cool. We don't know what it is. That's a quote. The Wachowskis couldn't explain it. So Joel Silver, they leave the room. Joel Silver tries to explain it. He says, robots in the program. And the article says that this guy, like the director, I think it's Bob, said, what do you mean robots in a program? It's robots in a program. Joel Silver gets a little bit annoyed. No, Joel Silver, it's robot-like agents in the program. But what's interesting is he, in Oblivion, after he got all my notes and had me explain everything, and I was in deposition explaining everything, nothing from them, all from me. They didn't have any working drafts.
Right.
So then Joel Silver makes it real people in the program, not robot-like anymore. I mean, robot-like agents, not robots. He got it right in Oblivion after the case is thrown because he wanted that for his ego. Isn't that something? The man that said that he doesn't make art, he acquires it. But in the original, you have the neural enhancer is what detonates if it's exposed to air, pulled out, it detonates, so they can't take agents' thoughts and memories. And this is already thought out. And you could push the button at the monitoring room and terminate someone. And that's done by a guy named Carrick is eliminated because he got emotionally compromised. And so even though he's calming down, the Smith character terminates him from the room monitors. See, the room monitors has a function in the original work. And they turn it, lifting it in the images they thought were cool, they give it to the architect who's just sitting there in a static shot and like it's reruns on the wall and then clicking a pen to channel change. It's just, the closest they got to brilliance was having Neo going, no, bull, cursing and yelling when he was, that's about the closest they got to any kind of, oh, that's cool in that whole scene. But that's not what's supposed to happen. That's them just making it up as they go along. It's crazy. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. So we have all the proofs, everything from submission letters to you name it, certified mail, the submitting attorney had tracking number, receipt. We have it all. And keep in mind, Tony Rankin, I told him when he was throwing the case, don't talk to my witnesses now because you're throwing the case. I want you fired. He claimed he called James Boyd of Norfolk, who submitted this stuff and had, and said he has nothing. You lost your case. You have nothing. I called him. He's like, don't call him. I called him. He had everything and provided it all. So that's just another way he tried to throw it. And that was after the deposition too, when we have the tape recorder. We have a tape recorder, and I'm sorry if I seem all over the map, but my mind.
It's okay. It's
like
in layers.
It layers. Yes, I'm tracking everything and trying to give you the pieces, but it's like the deposition that was done on me was like 7.5 hours. I had the flu. I was worn out. It was on Christmas. Basically, I'm down at their offices, and we're finding out the poor man's package had been ripped apart, and Rankin did something stupid there. At the dinner when I told you about on Maui, where he pulled everything out and shoved it in the bottom of my son's art box. He inadvertently took the notarized statement, but didn't realize the notarized statement was on the back of it was the first page of the story treatment. So the first page of the story treatment was missing. So they reinserted it at my deposition where they couldn't find it at first. And you hear Rankin on the tape, supposed to be my attorney, going, "Let's get it out of Tom Althouse's hands before he has a chance to go through it. Why don't you take it and copy it in your offices, and we'll wait here, and before he has a chance to go through it." Oh, you don't want it revealed what you had taken out.
Trying to be sneaky, huh?
Yeah, and then she comes back and says this. Linda Burrows, his classmate from University of Berkeley, comes back and says, after a long delay, she says, "I apologize for the delay. I used to mock people that couldn't work copy machines, but I copied the first 4 pages and I forgot how to work it." It's on the transcript. So because when they got to the missing first page of story treatment, they stopped copying because they were trying to find it. Then 7.5 hours into when it's coming to an end, both their pages go off. They go, "We're looking at pagers." And they realized they had found it. So she goes, "Oh, we're out of time, but I got to get something really important in my office. Mr. Rankin, why don't you stretch your legs with me?" And so he leaves with her, and then she sends him back in with the first page reinserted with the notarized statement. Unbelievable. Without the script. So it looked like it was nothing. It was unbelievable. That's just part of it. But in that session, Tony Rankin had a tape recorder. He was taping everything illegally. I had a tape recorder that matched his. And I showed up with him, of course. And I said, "Am I allowed to tape this thing?" He says, "No, give it to me. Can't." Shuts mine down, turns his on.
Of course.
Covers butt, right? Because he's part of the conspiracy. So he tapes everything, even lunch. You hear him. So we're going to reveal this during the case. This will be very good for the jury. And on it at the end, he goes, "Well, how about that? How about those disclosures that we've been waiting for so long?" And she goes, "It's a moot point to ask for any disclosures," which is evidence on their side, "because we have no working drafts at all. No working drafts for the Matrix, because they used this on set with the storyboard. The storyboard was their working draft off the images of this. So they want that revealed." And so what does Rankin say when he hears that? That's a win. If you hear they're refusing to disclose information, then you've won by default, basically. It's like, we just enter it. We've won. And I said that. We've won. He chewed me out. He said to them, before he chews me out, he says to them, "Well, then I'll write a letter. We can both agree to disagree." He's going to let them get away with it. We've got them. They're saying no working drafts. Yeah. They have no evidence. We have all the evidence. See? So it goes on and on with this, how the case was thrown. Even with the pre-trial, where he didn't tell me about what was being entered, he entered their exact same words that said something about no evidence would be given by Warner Brothers until after a summary judgment had been decided. What? No evidence is being... The evidence is how you refute. Yeah. Well, you're not going to give us evidence until after. And he writes it in the same words they use, exact same words. That's how incredible this is. And it goes on and on and on. So one day I want to do, I'll be revealing a full program on just how this case was thrown. And that's going to send them into uproar.
Yeah, excellent idea, man. I just want to ask you, what are some of the biggest changes, from the original screenplay of the Immortals of what you saw in the Matrix? Like, what did they change that was very important, Wow. I know the red pill was one of them, right? The red pill.
Yes, the red pill and blue pill are changed. And that one is where you have the them doing Alice in Wonderland. What they did was, as they had that visual storyboard with all the images they thought were cool, they talked the suits into that they can make it up as they go along and just fill in things they're familiar with. It doesn't work. If you got union wage people waiting for the next shot, it's going to get tense. If you're just trying to make it up and that kind of distractions going on and you're not that bright, So anyway, what happens is they put in Alice in Wonderland. So eat me, drink me with the red pill, blue pill. And what's
Morpheus,
supposed to be,
right?
Yeah, with Morpheus. What's supposed to be happening is Smith is the one that hands over the red pill to Neo at his own family's house, not the interrogation vault thing. It's supposed to be in his own home. The stakes are higher if it's your own home because he's his boss, right? And he's telling him that, if he doesn't obey, him and his family will die. So he has to take the red pill. There's no choice. There's no placebo. No placebo. You don't need to have another pill.
Yeah. So why have 2 pills, right? It's either one and that's it, or not take it.
If you take the red pill, you're in the program. If you don't take the red pill, then you can just go home. You haven't seen anything. And who's going to believe you anyway? So it's like, but they took that and made that because they made up as they went along and thought that was cool on set. Red pill is the one that's being given by Smith, which the architect is offering through Smith. Smith doesn't want to give it. But the architects demanded that Smith give it. We don't see who the architect is at this point, but we know that someone has plans for Neo, and Smith is not allowed to take him out. It's not Superman powers. He doesn't have Superman powers. He's a
But he was flying, Tom. He was flying in the movie like Superman.
and you know why, right? Did I tell you that?
Explain it for the audience.
Okay, well, during the pitch session, Bonaventura said, "This is revolutionary." Bing, let's use that too. And oh, my phone just went ding at the same time. That's funny. That's very synchronistic. But he said, "Do you have anything else? Anything else? This is fascinating." So I said, "I got the Dream movie." What's the Dream movie? Well, the Dream movie is about convicts that are being experimented on. Use the same name, Jim. And whatever happens to them, this is back in what, 93, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like whatever happens to them in their dream will happen to their body. When he gets eaten by a shark, the body melts basically on the table. And experiments about dream control, stuff like that, altercate kind of stuff. Anyway, so what happens is our character, the Jim guy, is actually succeeding in the dreams because anytime danger comes, he learned to fly. Think of the Wachowskis hearing about this because Bonaventura taped our session. So they're going, we'll use that too. We'll use that too. We're going to put flying with the Matrix. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. They're like, Superman, we'll put phone booths in. See?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the booths that they were.
That's so dumb. If you're a Smith, just limit the number of phone booths.
Yeah.
Target them like mousetraps, and you got them. No problem. You know, but they don't. They stick that in. They have them flying Superman with Superman powers. That's so stupid. There's no stakes. But they're mixing whatever they thought was cool from the pitch session. So what happens is in the original work, go ahead.
There's no phone booths in your script.
No, there's no phone booths. That's so stupid. And they're not wearing black, shiny. They're trying to blend in. You don't want to be noticed by the agents. So why would you dress like that with the sunglasses and the black, shiny stuff? I mean, I think it's pretty easy to catch anybody unless the architect is super, super stupid and didn't even pass first grade.
And Trinity, she wasn't supposed to be like some sexy girl, right? In your script.
She's supposed to, the description of her in my script has a look that intimidates most men, but with an classy and intelligent. It's not about being, as Larry says in an interview, sexy babe. No, she's clever, smart, intelligent, classy, with a look that would, what was it, frighten most men, or
intimidate
most men.
Yeah,
that's a good description, I think.
Yeah.
So, and look how they did with that. But she's supposed to blend in.
Yeah.
Right.
Not look something like noticeable.
No, in fact, they took the image of the Smiths in mind and gave it to Neo and because they thought it looked cool, they gave it to the protagonist.
Yeah.
The Smith agents are the ones with the long coats and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that are dressed up in the black and all, looking cool. Yeah. But I guess they figured, well, audiences want the good guys to look cool, so we'll do that. Yeah. So it's absolutely crazy. So anyway, but in the original, the red is given to Neo. He takes it so his family will survive. Enters the program by being assimilated, where he's brought back in the cryogenically, field pods. And it's the architect has assigned Smith to be his mentor. Why? They hate each other. Because he wants that conflict to generate. The architect's in a program that's immortal. His mind's going to atrophy for lack of stimulation. He needs stimulation. So that's why he knows predictive programming. He knows all the choices all will make. So he creates ever-increasing complex situations of anarchy and antagonism. That's why the agents are used to stir up trouble outside the program. So that's what's going on. Makes sense? So he needs to stimulate his mind. So this key moment is when he has Smith bringing back to mentor Neo. You can hear the architect laughing. You know, you're not allowed to take him out and you have to train him. They hate each other. That stimulates the architect's mind. That's like popcorn time with the room monitors. You know? So what happens is Neo, also through the architect's design, thinks that Smith saved his daughter because when in ours he has a daughter, they took that out. They didn't want the sympathetic relationship, which was really stupid because they kept the same ending with the daughter reappearing. If you're gonna take it out, then don't make her the centerpiece at the end.
Yeah. If
you're going to keep the relationship, then have that centerpiece ending that you said you wanted to keep the same ending where everybody said,
by the way, Tom, this character is very important to you, right? Isn't it?
It represents
your daughter?
My daughter. You're absolutely right. It represents my daughter that was taken from me. She represents my children being united with me. That's what I was writing. By writing the piece, I could reunite my family. That's what the author's doing. So for them to take that and turn that around
Yeah.
It's horrific. But what did Joel Silver do? He takes it a step further. Joel Silver in Oblivion, after he had all me talking about that. Thanks for asking this, because that's what I was talking about in depositions and things, about my daughter and all that stuff and how I represented her. So what does Joel Silver do? He gets a girl actress that looks exactly like my daughter and has her at the end seeing the man that saved her and pointing to him at the end, which is her daddy.
More mocking the author.
Mocking. Unbelievable. So what you got is, in the original work, the red pill is given to Neo. And later, when he's cut from the program by the architect's design with a diseased neural link, one of the bad things about it can be tracking device disease that goes the other way on you. He actually, incidentally, in Lost, they have the character in Lost looking at a gray hair, supposed to be immortal, realizing he's longer immortal. That's in the Immortals. That's in the Immortals. They took it for the Bad Robot group that also did Star Trek. So they took that one, lifted that one too.
I'm like wondering how many people in Hollywood looked at your script, right? Come on.
I'm told it's common knowledge throughout the studios. Now, somebody could contact somebody they know at a studio and go, oh, I didn't know. Like, yeah, you did. It's like they passed around like a phone book. In fact, the stuntman for Warner Brothers, the Batman stuntman, Quentin, went around asking everybody at Warner Brothers, or people at Warner Brothers, did you know about Tom Althouse, the Wachowskis, and the Matrix story? They said, yeah, it's common knowledge. It was taken from Tom Althouse, and that Diane Bellis, who was removed from the story department, who received it, was removed too. None of us are supposed to talk about it.
But it was common knowledge.
Common knowledge.
Can you explain the clock? The clock?
Oh, God. Yeah, the clock they put in Animatrix is 7 to 59. So they put 7.
And they were using that in different movies too. Not just
7 2 is in Man in High Castle. It's all over the place. Walking Dead, Ratatouille.
Tell people what it is.
7. Well, it went from 10 after 10, which is the smiling hands on the clock face, which was the standard for time in films. Just like 555 and phone numbers. It's a generic thing that was agreed on in the studios so that it wouldn't be a copyright violation if you had somebody's birthday on it. Well, my exact birthday is on the clock in Animatrix. There it is. 7 2 59, one before the 60. So my exact birthday, thanks for flashing that up. There's my exact birthday on the clock in black. And the red hands are 4 past the 4, 44 in 2003 when it was made.
Tom's birthday, you guys. Take that, Sophia.
Yeah, I mean, how can anybody argue that?
Yeah.
How can they argue that? Like you said, along with the high school and the dad's name, my fiance's birthday is Neo's birthday. How can people even try to argue that? Right? So they use the talking point, you had your day in court. No, we didn't. Not yet. There's my license, my birthday on it, 7/2/59. And I'm glad you flashed this up. They double birthdayed Neo. So
9/11. Look at that crap.
Well, 9/11 is that's going to be a date of issue. Look at the orange circle, date of birth, September 13. So they give him September 13, but then his other birthday is March 11th.
Wait, is that your birthday, September 13?
September 13 is the one attributed to Neo.
Yeah.
They doubled it on the graphic. This was the uncorrected one. On the graphic, that one above it, go to the one above it. So just the one above it. Yeah, there. So you see, I don't know if you can see it very much. It's Cabal, March 11th. Okay. Is it written over? March 11th is right on the birthday section. Oh, there it is right there. I see it. Go bigger again. And okay, stop. No, almost.
It's not letting me do it perfectly.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. You're doing fine.
Okay,
March 11 is right under Thomas A. Thomas A upside down. This is how it was in the show. Thomas A upside down is March 11. That's my fiance at the time, her birthday. So they made her birthday Neo's birthday because when I lost her, that's when they gave the work to Wachowskis. When she was enticed away by Disney, I lost everything, was broken, ended up in the hospital, and they figured this is when we're going to steal the work. That's why the Wachowskis got it, and that's how history went. Altered timeline. That's something. So double birthday, double named. Double birthday, double named. Because they had to put the joke in. The Wachowskis didn't figure continuity. They figured let's make a graphic with a birthday and name, and now let's change this in the first graphic where we're gonna mock him. And there it is, right side up. Yeah. That's something. So there's March 11th. Good job. So see it? March 11th? Perfect. March 11th, right there, is Cabal's birthday. My fiance.
Oh my God.
Thomas A, right? John, my dad's name, John A, marital status, Central West, high. The reason they turned it to junior high to get by the clearance department that's supposed to check all these things, they say they're stacking the entries to make the joke get through, because they wanted to use Owen Patterson. they want the production manager responsible for this to get his own high school named after him as a joke. And they bumped my high school up to junior high or down to junior high.
And there's Michelle.
Yep, there she is, Michelle McGee, the art director. And Anderson is quite a story in itself, why they named him Anderson. There's a real reason. See the TA 4099 in the column, too.
Thomas Althouse, baby. What's up?
Thomas A. And Anderson. Why Anderson? There's a big, big reason.
Isn't that Scottish?
What's that?
Isn't it Scottish?
Yes, Scottish clans. But also, David Anderson was the reason that Pat Robertson took all my work away and made me lose everything, and the Rockefellers took me in. It was David Anderson, the pastor at Kempsville Presbyterian Church. Let me just show you this real quick.
So they're just mocking you again.
Big time. This is the worst thing you can do. So, I mean, what they did here. David Gyertson was the PR person for Pat Robertson. And a entry here I want to show you. This is really wild. This guy was the connection to...
is that a preacher or something, Pat Robertson?
He claimed to be, but actually he was a crook. He was just a crook. But here is David Gyertson's connections all through Hollywood, Burbank, Mentoring Project. So he's Robertson's connection to Hollywood, sharing the pedophile ring with Disney. And this guy was the one that cemented that. But something happened to me at Robertson's organization where I lost everything. And that's when Dr. Harry Sova, it was a associate dean, took me alone in a motorhome to Washington, D.C. to work on his, again, manuscript, Opus Magnus or something he called it. And it was a terrible thing. It was like only me and him. I wasn't bringing any money. I got roofied and raped. And so I lost everything because Robertson kills the victims. He's a repeat offender. And so I was called in a meeting to share everything I knew. And on the trip, though, Sova told me that, Robertson's gay. He's gay. It's a sex ring. If you want to make it, then you need to be part of this.
You got to join the club.
You got to join the club, right? So what happens is he tells me about David Anderson. He says, David Anderson went to Kempsville Presbyterian Church, stepped forward to his congregation, and confessed about having sex with Pat Robertson and the president of the school, because Pat Robertson promoted his gay friend to be head of Regent University or CBN University. Isn't this something? So, and he told me too on the trip, there's a militant sect of gay and there's a legitimate, like regular sect of gay. And he said he's part of the militant sect of gay, the church, because the church is supposed to be about love to get their political agendas across. And here we have it. That's what he told me.
And wasn't Patterson involved with the Bushes?
Yes, big time. Big time. In fact, Pat Robertson.
Red flag.
Yeah. 100 of his law school students, went over and joined Bush's administration on legal.
Wow.
In fact, Newsweek, you can find the Newsweek article probably easily, where it's like the Law and Justice Center of Pat Robertson. Yeah, opposite of what it is. It was considered Bush's dream team was the cover shot. Dream team. Bush's dream team. They're the ones that appointed the judge, Gary Klausner, first appointee to throw our case in California, set it all up. But remember I said about David Anderson stepping forward and David Gyertson had to cover it? So a PR guy who's connected to Hollywood for Pat Robertson, because he wanted to be famous, is the one that covers up the scandal. And he spends a year at Kempsville Presbyterian Church to make sure nothing goes forward. But that's why they named Thomas A. Anderson. Thomas A. Anderson. Yeah. The terrible thing that happened in my life where I lost everything. I was like straight A student, all that kind of stuff. All gone.
So that was intentional to put that in that shot for 1 second. That's just right. Another insult.
That's right. And it's a way for Warner Brothers, Wachowskis, to have a leg up over the religious right, another facet of the cabal. They're always trying to have one thread over the other, one strand, one spider web over the other. And so that's why the Rockefellers took me in. It's a constant battle between all the different facets of the cabal. So they're never a cohesive unit, really.
And didn't the Wachowskis get in trouble from the higher ups for doing that?
What you saw, all those entries, that's why they had to pose as women. And they still have their genitalia.
Like punishment.
Punishment, yes, yes. Larry didn't mind. He got giddy on it. He wasn't even paying attention to the filming. Andy, it bothered him greatly. In fact, he's so ashamed he didn't appear on The Last Matrix. But what happens is he was asked in an interview, well, now that you're a woman, you must be happy, right? And he's like, no, not really. It's like, yeah, punished. But listen to this entry. I want you to hear this entry from David Gyertson's own, anybody want a screenshot, freeze, go ahead. But David Anderson's own entry by David Geyerson, and listen to how they spin it to cover up the pastor coming forward and sharing about having the sex rings with Pat Robertson, sex with him and the rest of the 2,000 congregation. It says June 1985 to May 5th, 1986. That's a whole year, basically. Kempsville Presbyterian Church is the resume of David Geyerson, PR person for Robertson. Virginia Beach, Virginia, interim senior minister, served as the interim senior minister for a 2,000-member PCUSA congregation while they searched for a new pastor. Okay, why? Supervised a staff of about 20 full-time employees and ministers and managed a budget of about 1.5 million. It's not small potatoes. Stabilized the congregation after the loss of the previous pastor due to a moral failure. That's a good spin for went forward and confessed to the congregation that he had sex with our boss, Pat Robertson. Then it says, provided direction for the development of a new strategic plan. Well, it's not war, it's a church. And assisted with the transition to a new senior minister to make sure that he would always keep it covered up. Left when new senior minister was identified and installed. They're so stupid. They laid it out completely. Right there, what Sova told me on the trip to try to convince me to have sex with him, saying that, this is going on. If you want to make it at Pat Robertson's organization, you better play ball with us, literally. Yeah. And I said, yeah.
Well, isn't that one of the reasons why they started attacking you? Because you weren't going along? I mean,
that's it. That's why the screenplay was taken. Very astute. The screenplay was taken from me. When people say, why didn't they just work with you? Pat Robertson, his part of the cabal, said no. Super connected to Disney? No. So Disney gets to steal it. And Pat Robertson went a little bit further. He provided an adjunct professor and his wife, who was a model, to approach me, to work with me. And I've got the letters all here. And what they did was they were supposed to tell me that it was wrong that Pat Robertson took away my jobs, education, and over this affair, what had happened, and that they wanted to help me, that they had just gotten from the East Coast top coveted positions at Disney and Universal Studios for their story development department. Interesting. So give us your screenplay and we'll make sure it gets in and seen.
Yeah, of course.
And here is the actual, right there. Actual Disney letters, Ned and Judy Nankovich. Here's another one from the hotel.
Wow.
On the back, there's their signature, Judy and Ned Nankovich. What's interesting is they don't put it on their resume. The story department, development department at Warner Brothers, at Disney and Universal, and you don't put it on your resume?
Yeah.
But all that right there, see Judy right there? So they supplied them in order to get my work given to them, so it would end up in the hands of Disney. And when it was submitted, that's when Mike Lang of Disney, who supplied the Honeypot Wife, forms Miramax Films in 1993 and gets to have Harvey Weinstein under him. And the whole point of it is to have to get the library of Disney to get ownership and credit of scripts they don't own in hard copy form in a New Jersey warehouse. And that's in the Vanity Fair article. So what you've got is, we wouldn't have known about Mike Lang, by the way, if he had not resigned immediately, along with Joel Silver. When the case was being thrown, I said, I'm gonna have to go to the judge. This isn't fair. You're running the clock out now on serving them. Yeah. And right away, Mike Lang and Joel Silver resigned immediately at the same time. So we knew something was with Mike Lang. We knew that he was involved. So they made a thread right back to Disney. We would never have known if he hadn't run. And that's how we saw that they were involved. And then, of course, they reinstated themselves soon after our case was thrown.
Mm-hmm. Wow, man.
Quite a story, I know. Warner Brothers attorneys actually say, or attorneys in Warner or Hollywood are calling it the greatest story. Roseanne Barr said the greatest story. The Trump's team, Trump and his family know this whole story. Roseanne Barr told me.
Well, your story's coming out, man.
Coming out now, finally. They did a good job covering it up. One of the things you'll hear is, why did it take so long for us to hear about this? When the cabal throws their full force at you, it's amazing if you even see a finger rising from the soil when you're buried.
Yeah. Well, man, you went through some hellish issues, including your sons and your daughter, your fiance. Everything just came apart. I mean, this is a sad story, but you remain triumphant. I mean, you're striving, you're surviving, and now you're telling your story. which
Yeah,
I think
and
is very important.
thank you. And what Aiden did, the piece he made, I mean, God bless him. My last surviving
Your son.
Yeah, that piece he made, that last part in that thing, he did that. And Sophia Stewart, of course, chimes in, calls me and says he didn't make it. He doesn't exist. He didn't make it. I'm like, don't take the credit away from my son and me both. Come on. So Sophia Stewart knows she's out of a job and going to lose face when we win in court.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if we make the film, she called the one time. Remember I said about how the letter was shown and she got real upset that the letter was shown, struck her.
Yeah.
She called me and said that Sarah Westall, Zach from I forget what podcast he is. He had me on. Their sites were struck on the same day. The exec from Warner Brothers left. The same day my website was struck, and Sophia Stewart called to brag, saying it's all struck the same day. And she called and said, "You can't make your film. They'll put an injunction on you." And I said, "Well, she's trying to shut us down, right? Stop us." I said, "If they put an injunction on us, that means there's similarities. We win." So then she goes, "You can't do your case because the judge ruled with prejudice." I said, "We never claimed Matrix 1. We never were allowed to. You were part of that.
Mm-hmm.
With the fraud and everything involved in my condition, there's no statutes. We can do it." And she didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
Then she said something else. There was 3 things she said that were supposed to shut me down. And I answered back with each of them. And then she finally said, she just didn't talk anymore.
She doesn't have nothing to say.
First time I ever heard her not be able to say something. The witch was silent. Yeah. But watch how many people surface, keep spreading her lies. You know, a student put an article in saying she'd won. Now, Warner Brothers tried to orchestrate something where they could throw her a bone, you know, and the idea was, we'll have you do a malpractice and we'll make sure no one shows up. And that way you can save face. We won't let you have credit for the Matrix, but we'll let you save face and you can say you got money. So they orchestrated something on the inside where it was nothing about the evidence because they couldn't do it based on evidence. She has nothing. As anybody watches that link, please do, the one you'll be providing, because you'll see exactly what that story is about. Like I was holding up, you'll see it for yourself.
After everything you have faced, Tom, what gives you the strength to keep going?
The value of life, compassion and humility. It's a great question. What I was trained to have, specifically trained to have, which is right back in the face of religious right, Stewart, Cabal, agencies, is that, yeah, I have compassion. Yeah, I have humility. Yeah, I was trained that, and I had to have it in order to step forward. It was not going to be taken from me. So I learned it. That's what kept me alive. If you have compassion and you're not going to take your life, because it only hurts your loved ones really in the end. And if you have compassion and you take your life, well, say you do, then can't help anybody anymore. So with extreme compassion, which was noted in even testing that were done, they're saying, like, my sister actually tore it up, the test that showed that I had this stuff, because she's working for the other side now. Power.
Wow.
Yeah, bought out completely by these stooges, and the congressman is working with the FBI. So what you got is compassion.
Why? What was her incentive? Did she get bribed or something?
Yeah, she was approached, threats and rewards, and
also your fiance too. What did she?
She was approached too. Yeah, and then they're conditioned to say it's all lies now, when they're the ones that were pushing me forward to say, never give up after they saw all the evidence. So it's a way to turn them and try to have them work against you. It's supposed to be shock value, which is exactly what's in the screenplay. Neo's best friend is the one that meets him when he enters the Cortex building. It's seamless, no walls, no doors, and he enters using Smith's memories. And he's faced off by his best friend, reinstated, a former agent. They'd get that out. Should have kept it in as the best part, one of the best parts. And that's why he enters unopposed. So what they did in the reworking of it, they just had him enter unopposed. But you're supposed to be facing off for the reason that the architect has him unopposed is because he's meeting his best friend who's reinstated to take him out. And instead his friend doesn't do it, is terminated with that detonation. He said he won't do it. Much richer, much more important messages. Then it's like, oh, I'm so excited. We will be making this. They're very concerned about it being made. I look forward to even a more of the team to do it. But that's, they can't win. Even if they killed me now, it wouldn't be by my hand, of course. I'm not going to commit suicide. Like I'm saying, passion, you're not going to do that. Right. What caused me to go through all this and succeed? Memory of my boys, keeping their memory alive. That seems to be a Stewart tactic to try to bring that down. That all life does have value. If I have humility and compassion that I was trained to have, then I can't fathom not doing what I can to make a better world. They put it in Black Sails. In Black Sails, they have a clip where the one character who's really good-hearted, Thomas in Black Sails, which is done by this same group, Thomas in Black Sails, they said that there are men and women who can't help themselves. They are set with compassion towards a better world, and there's no way they can stop. But they throw in something. They said the only way they'll succeed, though, is if villainous people take them under their wing.
Right.
And
I
protect them.
mean, that's kind of a backwards because humans are naturally compassionate, but they want to take the humanity, the compassion out of you, like the Smiths or whatever. This is their path, not the original organic path of humans.
Right. That's exactly right. Warner Brothers believes that we're all dark in our soul. The movies whisper this. Many of the movies and series will whisper this, that if you're kind, you'll get your family killed. If you're vicious, you will be like the lion and protect your pride.
Mhm.
You know, in more ways than one. So
Right.
they don't realize, and I tried to tell, like on Disney Call, I said, you know, your work's going to suffer unless there's compassion involved. If you don't treat your audience like a service for them, then your work's going to suffer. If you're thinking about all the rewards you're going to get while you're writing, your mind's clouded from the actual creativity and the layers that can be done. The creativity comes from serving your audience. And I told them that. They were silent on that one. I couldn't believe it. They actually were silent on that one after they had said about, you have to understand, we believe it's all about power. I said, power, absolute power corrupts, yes, but absolute power with compassion doesn't.
I want to ask, isn't the way they did the Matrix kind of like about a savior or a messiah, or kind of like merging with AI? You see Neo at the end being, sacrificed.
Very, very important you said that, because what they did was they replaced the Christ figure in the end. The only historic figure I could find that would balance the equation that the architect could use to get free will given to him. Remember they talk about free will?
Mhm.
The reason he's trying to have Zion set aside, not 6 generations, one in the original work. And Wachowski's on their fan page actually said, we were wrong with the 6 generations. Audiences taught us that it was one. No, the original author taught you it was one. You had to work, guys. You're idiots.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. Anyway, so idiots. Anyway, sorry. But anyway, so what happens is they replace Neo in place of Christ.
Mhm.
What's really interesting, because in the original work, the architect tries to replace Christ by looking like Christ. So it's, look at these layers. So the identical figures at the end is the architect looking like Christ, to have the untainted people of Zion come out by an ambiguous oracle to bring him out, to see him return so he can get the pure power of worship so his mind is stimulated forever without having to do anything else, while purging his agents because he doesn't need conflict anymore. So he can be a peaceful Christ returning, this horrible character, this architect, completing that because all he needs is stimulation. The happier the humans are, the more his mind is stimulated by being worshipped by them. Think on it.
Yeah. And this whole it's like a transhumanism message, like merging with AI.
And that's what I was given. I was given this. See, where they turned it into Neo replacing Christ because they needed somebody to replace the Christ character. They have Neo facing off with Smith. Neo's supposed to be watching it happen. Tried to do everything he could and failed. Did everything possible, as this dad, the author, did. But Christ steps in, the historic character, where then the pulse wave, remember that they said they wanted to keep the exact same ending, and they said everybody argued, blow it up, blow it up. Yeah, if you rip this thing apart, if you tear the story apart, go ahead and blow it up. They hate when I hold it up, so I will. They hate this. So it's like, blow it up. Don't keep the same ending. You ripped it up shreds. And don't try to just shuffle characters around to fill the gaps. It doesn't work. Neo shouldn't be the Christ character. It's not going to work. And then we'll stretch a little farther, put a gold cross in his chest with his arms out like a crucifix. That'll make it work, won't it? No, it won't. Everyone on set, including Joel Silver, said to blow it up to end it. Wachowski said no. They kept the exact ending. The exact ending of what? All these last pages. All these last pages is what they kept. Exactly. Just rearranging the characters. That's the epitome of dumb. That's dumb on steroids. So, yeah.
And what about this character Morpheus in your script, The Immortals? I mean, isn't that also, they're talking, isn't he, that word Morpheus, something to do with dreams, or the god of dreams or something?
That's what's so great you said that, because they're drawing from the Dream movie, right? In the Dream movie, our character flies to escape, right? And so what happens is, Dream movie again. My character's name of Morpheus was Alan Grace. Because that was my very good friend of mine for the Air Force that helped me do the music. This music on the front score here, this music right here on the front was done beforehand with me with Alan Grace.
They probably didn't think that was as cool as Morpheus, huh?
Yeah, well, well, look at the names they chose. Smith, Smith is the name you used for the most generic name possible and was used in the Old West when the Civil War was ending. They said, what was your name during the war? It was one of my favorite songs, one of the big songs at the time. And you name yourself Smith. In Pirates of the Caribbean, he puts down Smith. You know, Captain Jack puts Smith.
Yeah, like Jane Doe.
Yeah, so that's what they use. So they're using a generic name. Now, why Trinity? They took the three love interests in Immortals and called her Trinity, right? So Morpheus, again, the Dream movie, you're the one that pointed it out, which I'm so glad you did. The Dream movie, they want to put it in because they want to use that up too. So Alan Grace, what they did with Grace is they used that name too. They put Grace as one of the council members.
Right? Oh, that's right.
Council too, at the council. So yeah, everything's there, including the shot of going over Zion and then going down into it. That's in there too.
But what was this character Morpheus's role in your script?
He becomes, in ours, he becomes the head of Underground. He was the one that he saves all the files from our time and allows for the Neuralink copy thing to happen in Underground, which is a bootleg version, not based on the blood of the children, right? And keep in mind, Sophia Stewart says that, you know, the red pill's based on the blood of the children, but is the good pill, the blue's the bad pill. After I said that, you know, the blue pill's the good pill, that was the counter they had her do on her page. So she's following orders. Really stupid. Anyway, so what you got is Alan Grace is the best friend of Neo in our time. He is working with him in his department at the CIA in the beginning. Now people will say, it doesn't sound like the Matrix. Well, that is where your agents come from. I'll wake up. And then what happens is the assimilation happens. He's brought back from the pod. He's mentored by Smith. He's not supposed to see any characters. He goes and sees his daughter, which was used exactly in Interstellar with Christopher Nolan.
Another movie.
Yes. Bad. Oh, it pissed me off. When he did that and milked it with a scene, which was the best scene that Wachowski didn't use because they didn't want the daughter relationship. So he used it in Interstellar. Christopher Nolan is a crook, a real crook. And his son's name is Sean also. Yeah. Anyway, so he got to rip it up that way and just milked it for all it's worth. I was so angry when I saw that with Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. But anyway, so what you got is Alan Grace actually dies. The second in charge of Underground watches him die and wants to kill him because he thinks he has too much faith in the Neo character.
Right.
And so isn't that like what we saw in the Matrix? He thought he believed too much in him being the one, right? That's what's in the original work. And so what happens is that character was an African-American man, then becomes head of Underground. And he's the one at the end that sees Neo pointing to the dome. Yes, the dome. And because using Smith's memories to identify it. And what's cool is he identifies it as being the dome, not because Smith remembers it being the dome, but because Smith was angered that it was the one building he was allowed to be shown by the architect. And that anger cues our character into realizing that's an important building. He wasn't shown it. So it's kind of cool. There's layers. The Wachowski didn't understand those layers. So yeah.
Yeah. What about the black lady who played the important role? Was that something similar to yours?
That's what's wild. Good question. What they did was they made somebody look like Sophia Stewart because Sophia Stewart was brought in to claim not with anything that she doesn't have anything like she has Star Wars in the Bible. Yeah, so they make it. They think audiences will be dumb and go, "Well, she looks like the Oracle."
She does look like Sophia Stewart.
Yeah,
right?
That's like saying you look like Santa Claus. It doesn't make a difference. It just they purposely did that for their in-house witch to be able to claim that she's the one. But that has nothing to do with writing content. Yeah. Nothing. That's just them showing their hand, just like that conspiracy letter that she posted. So what you have is Sophia Stewart is not supposed to be a black woman. It's supposed to be a white male named Parks.
Wow. Okay.
Is the Oracle. Yeah, that's the Oracle. And the Oracle is replacing the character that represents Pat Robertson. So you have this Dooley character, which is in Black Sails, Dooley. They put Dooley, which is I made an absurd name, and they used it in Black Sails, along with my son, attorney Boyd, and Behringer, our Smith's character's name. Yeah. And my honeypot, or my fiance, who was at the pitch session, Bernard's her married name, they used Bernard. It's all in there. All in there, all in there.
Man, you think these people can't write worth a damn? They can't come up with their own ideas. They got to be stealing other people's talents and ideas.
It's something so important. The only way they get stimulated, like the architect, the only way it seems they really can write content is that they're mocking and enjoying mocking someone. So that's why that's all in there. Remember what I told you, Susanna Bolgen, the graphic designer, said? They put this stuff in to keep the project interesting for them. That's what they said about the Wachowskis. She said about Wachowskis on Matrix.
Yeah.
So that's the only way they can stimulate. So you just raised something so important. The reason they're putting this stuff in there is to make it fun for themselves, to make it interesting for themselves, and that's the only way they can generate content or spin-offs.
An inside joke, haha, look what we're doing and getting away with.
That's what feeds the interest. Yeah. It's wild. You just surface something very important. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, would you still have written the Immortals if you knew all this stuff would have happened?
No.
Or
No. What I would have done is I probably would have done speeches and shows and talks and tried to encourage people to do the right thing and gone into law. I felt led to go into law. And in fact, an LA firm, others like IBM tried to recruit me. They just would come when I was doing the international tours. Disney's group came that did animatronics, wanted to recruit me for that group. Constantly being recruited. The CIA, Naval Intelligence, Air Force Intelligence, was testing me and wanted me to be in. So all these groups were high level, saw the potentials in the bloodline. They all saw it. So I was constantly getting tugged and pulled, push me, pull me. But I probably would have gone into law. The one firm in California, they said I looked like a Jewish attorney, and they said, we'll hire you. I said, I'm just going to grad school. We'll hire you when you're done. We don't care.
Right.
Come. Because they thought I'd be able to influence. And that's why Pat Robertson had picked me to be the face of the Christian Coalition, which
wow.
to be an influence, the blue eyes, the dimples, all that stuff that I had, all these years ago. So it's like that was to mislead people. And so he took my place because he was willing to do it. I didn't think it was right.
Yeah. Well, would you consider publishing the Immortals in its original form someday?
Yes, absolutely. I want people to have the full experience like it was supposed to be, but more and more as it drags out more and more, I'm just going to publish it. Just publish it. And I'm working on the book now, so it'll just be part of the book. Why not? So yeah, because I've waited so long for people to have the experience, but people have lived and died. Generation almost.
Man, it's been 2 decades since the
3 decades.
Yeah, 3 decades.
Yeah. So I'm at the point where I'm ready, because I mean the train station scene is all there, and if all they can draw is like some guy that appeared on my site just recently when they were erasing things, they put this guy on, and he was just a loser. He was like, you had your day in court, which is a talking point Warner Brothers uses, which we haven't. And then he's like, you don't show your script, or like, okay. So they're saying everything they can, the last straws they can throw now. So I guess maybe the world won't have the experience. Maybe we'll just put it out there. But what needs to be understood is the director's cut kind of version where it's annotated. We'll have to see exactly how it's all lifted, because they'll try to do smoke and mirrors. They're trying to push me to publish it. So they'll say, I don't see it, I don't see it. And they'll do that even with players where you'll see the train station scene right there. They go, I don't see the train station scene. It's right there, right there. It's like they'll play that game. So they think they can muddy the waters, give them a chance to muddy the waters. I think it's driving them crazy that I haven't published it out, but it has been published. It was distributed through Warner Bros. And attorneys and everything. It's at the Copyright Office. It's there. So there's no way it's going to be altered or changed with what I have here with the Gold Seal. So, but still right now where we're at is the matchups are crucial. People need to understand the reverse engineering of this, where they lifted everything they thought was cool and made it up as they went along, filling in what they're familiar with. The train station scene, they put the train man from Ghost into the train station scene. Right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't belong there. But they're filling in as they go because there's pressure on set. What's next? What's the next shot? Hold on. And they threw in the 20-foot rule.
Yeah, talk about that, man. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? 20-foot rule is that anybody within 20 feet of this, like to say this is a screenplay. Okay, I'll hold it up. I'm going to let the rest of it. But 20 feet of this is fired. So 20 feet? There. Can you read it? So the whole thing, it's a stupid rule. Why would you make a 20-foot rule of your screenplay that no one's allowed within 20 feet of it? Unless you're stealing it. If you're stealing it, you don't want to see the timeline. You're consulting it along with your visual storyboard. Yeah, you're allowed to see the visual storyboard. You're not allowed to see this because this was in one hand, visual storyboard in the other, and that's what the fight choreographer told me.
So that was the Wachowskis' rule on the set. Nobody's allowed to come close to the script.
Right. You can get close to the visual storyboard, but not the script in the other hand. They're consulting it on set. Yeah.
That's insane, man.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, though. Yeah, so you're opening some real good stuff. I mean, this is important.
Well, what message would you leave for those who are, trying to awaken from their own personal matrix?
Oh, I would say this. Look at the primary sources. Don't ever give up. Outlast whatever you're facing. And find innovative ways to think outside the box. If they tell you and force you down a road where they throw your case, as in mine, there are other ways to win and win that case. Don't ever let them define the parameters. Be creative. Use the brains you got and find the ways and use this meter. What they're most afraid of is your clue. What they're most afraid of when they send Sophia Stewart's towards you and they're trying to tell you you can't make your movie, that means you should make your movie. When they're telling you can't do your case, that means you should do the case because they're afraid of you doing it. Just take what they try to steer you in and go the other way. And it works wonders. It really does.
Has investors approached you to actually make the movie?
Yes, but that's the interesting thing. Their players will latch on and then approach the investors that have been talking about wanting to invest with you so they can handle those investors and then talk them away. This has happened time and time again. It's a stratagem. So if an investor wants to invest with me, they will find out about it through the wires or phones, whatever, and they'll send somebody to them pretending to be with me to talk them out of it. And that's what you see even in that Tony Rankin's letter, which is just amazing. He wrote a letter to this other firm saying, don't ever represent Tom. And if anybody tries to represent him, let us know, and I'll make sure they don't. That's going to help in our case resurrecting.
Well, the same technique was used for your fiance and your sister, right? Trying to push you away from Tom.
Exactly. In fact, my sister had said to me in a rage, she said, if you don't let them do what they're doing, basically, you're saying I don't matter. Because she won't get her rewards. The dinners and the black tie dinners and all the rewards and the getting to Washington, D.C. and trips and, yeah. So.
Well, what about Roseanne Barr? She seemed interested, or is that so-so?
Roseanne Barr did that first interview. It was amazing. I was supposed to go back real soon to do a second one. She called me. She contacted me right off of the stage where Trump was doing his address. And she was a keynote speaker or a key speaker for him. Wow. And so she came off that stage in Florida, I think it was, and then contacted me via a message. I didn't know if it was her. It seemed like, after all the things I've seen, could be somebody just snowing me. But then she did call me. She was good for her word. She called me from Trump's place, apparently, a Largo Key, whatever, and had a conversation with me. Then she told me about coming to do a show. She was true to the word on that. It was at Blanco, Texas. Up I go. I met her and her family, beautiful family. Jake, her son, is absolutely amazing. He's a star in himself on his own. And just incredible family. So I'm supposed to go back again. And what Roseanne cued me with was she said that she spotted the genuineness. And I spotted the genuineness in her. She's the real deal, the real article. I applaud her courage.
Well, they've attacked her too, so.
Big time. Same players, Disney.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, you guys got similar stories then.
Very much. She alluded that too. So very much so. So I stand with her. I stand by her. And, but yeah, apparently Trump's whole family knows our story completely or well. And that's a great story.
Well, this is a big, the Matrix is affected many people's lives. It's a big deal. Isn't it worth billions, right? You're worth billions, Tom.
Worth billions. You're not going to. Yeah, that's what they brag about too. We have a tape of the player who's endorsed by them saying, they're bragging about how much you're being screwed, how much it's worth, and how they had Rankin in their pocket and you're back against the wall. It's on tape. So it's really wild. The submitting the guy who was at the pitch session, who was best friends with Bonaventure, who still claims he discovered and shepherded the Matrix story from Warner Brothers. He is his best friend, Lenny Coco. Lenny Coco, in a taped call from their attorneys, they were playing it, called him and said twice to him. They told me that they called him twice, and he said, "Tom must be crazy. I never met him at all. Never met him. He's crazy." So they call him twice to make sure he's going to say that. Then they go to me. Let's give him a call. See the setup? They're players, right? And so we call, and he starts out with that script. And on the tape we have, which I have to send you the tape, it's amazing. I said, well, I want to thank you anyway for, it was God was just there. I was like, this is what I was going to do. Italian guy. I was like, I'm going to thank you for what it did to my family anyway. And that you made a difference in this young writer's life at the time. And I want to just show my appreciation that you did. And then he goes, okay, wait, he didn't count on that. He's like, well, describe my house. I described it on the tape. Describe me. Describe my wife. I did. Describe his granddaughter. I did. Medium brown hair down here, curly, slightly curly at the table, round table. Phone in the back, past the kitchen island. The kitchen's attached to the dining room, and the books are cluttered on the side. He's kind of bald with the glasses. I described everything. He goes, "Okay, you're right." He said, "My wife remembers you. My granddaughter said she remembered you too." And yeah. And then he's like, "I want you to write my life story." And he commits everything on tape. So the attorneys for Warner Brothers are going, "You're vindicated. You're vindicated," like they're in shock. "You're vindicated. You're vindicated." Never entered into evidence. So wait till that's entered into evidence. So all those that would say Sophia Stewart wrote it, or that we don't have a case, yeah, get ready to eat some grass, the cow kind, because you're just gonna, yeah, it's all coming down. There's no way to stop it, and we're gonna finish strong.
And besides The Matrix and Immortals, it seems like you're into science fiction, or you're just a writer in general. I mean, is this something that you do as a hobby, or is this some pursuit that you really...
I was little. I loved Asimov. I think I said his name right.
Oh yeah, Isaac Asimov.
Read The Red Planet when I was little. And I kept saying, when I would read these things too, I'd always think too, what could be layered in? What could be layered in? You know, and it wasn't to be an ego thing. It was just, you know, their great idea perpetuates more great ideas.
Right.
And so that's the way copyright is supposed to work. And that's the way patents are supposed to work. The Neuralink is supposed to be in the ownership of the one that published it. That was the way it used to be. I published it. And then one of the first things Warner Brothers did, besides saying Jack's the neck, they also said, "You didn't publish your work." I'm like, "Yeah, I mailed it to you, and through attorneys and everything else, it was published. And with the Copyright Office, it's published." So they were very upset about that. So first thing they shot was Neuralink, not in the script. They tried to say it is all through it, and you didn't publish it. So the rule was, I didn't realize at the time, with the trademark office, a patent office, was that if you published it. So then they changed it when the case was thrown, that 2013 deadline. When the case was being thrown, they changed it to enters it first. And Elon didn't even enter it. It was done for him. That's what they told me. So it was entered for him. Warner Brothers wants to keep control of it. And what the Wachowskis did that was just amazing is when they were given the story, when I was hospitalized, lost Otica, broken, destroyed, that's when they gave them the work in end of 95, beginning of 96. And so they announced when they're given the work, because there was Tom Hanks was supposed to get it, Wendy Wasserstein, they said, "Oh yeah, well, we want to do Jack's neck for real." Wow. They tried to force Warner Brothers' hands so they can get credit for the greatest tech also at the time. Now, you never heard them say it again. But with them saying that, Warner Brothers slapped them back, and not till again in 2017, it's given to Elon Musk.
Yeah, what's the deal with
He was the
Elon Musk?
candidate. Elon Musk was groomed by Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers put him in Iron Man 2. And he's
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in that cameo, right? The cameo at the raceway.
Mhm.
That's the grooming process. Then the shaming process, he's in young Sheldon, where he's shown stealing the tech from Sheldon, rocket tech, playing himself stealing tech. That's the shaming process. Then he's given the Star Trek Discovery, done by Paramount, where the attorney from Warner Brothers that handled my stuff, or submitting litigation executive, goes to Paramount, and they put in that Discovery, Star Trek Discovery, Elon Musk High School, Elon Musk the Greatest Mind, and they put down Neuroenhancer. The character again, the next as part of that scene says Neuroenhancer again. Then she finally says neuronal link. Elon Musk didn't even come up with the name. Warner Brothers did.
Yeah. So it's kind of like given to him, like this. Here's
It's given to him where they can still prove they own it. So right now, if he behaves himself and does what he wants right by the president, that should be chilling. They will let him be. But if he does not do what they want or pull the plug when he wants him to, and he's supposed to be standing by the president to take his place, he didn't get elected. He bought his way in with blood money. But if anything happens to Trump, the public's supposed to do an outcry for Elon, save us. That's what the face of the Christian coalition was supposed to be. I was supposed to be the one you turn to and go, save us, Tom. Right? So,
you were being groomed for some type of role like Elon Musk, weren't you?
I was going to be basically an antichrist. I would be somebody who would mislead you all and get the rewards for it. They thought everybody had their price. I didn't even when Christine, this girl, walked up and said, "I'm to be yours." She's beautiful. Like they were casting a film. Absolutely my type of person. But I don't want a robot. I don't want somebody who's coming up to me saying I'm to be yours because they've dictated I'm to be yours because I'll look good with you in order to do the public image and you'll have more power to mislead the world. No.
Well, they're matchmaking with a strategy, right? I mean,
Matchmaking with strategy. That's exactly it. Yes. And they do it well. They do it well. I mean, if they had not done that, that Christine that walked up, I could have fallen in love with. She was, every facet was there, every layer of who she was and her personality. And they even were smart enough to pick a brilliant, match the Trinity description.
yeah.
Beautiful, but what? Intelligent, classy, with a look that intimidated most men. Yeah, there she was.
Catering to the author.
Yeah. Yeah. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. And it was supposed to be happily ever after. That's a film in itself. What would have happened if I'd have gone that way?
Yeah.
The reset would have happened by now, from what I understand. I was credited or accused of having Robertson's presidential campaign fail. And in that presidential campaign, he was going to launch an endless war. And he even had the theory that he could drop pamphlets on other countries and everyone would be shot on sight if they didn't drop all their weapons. Families, people, fathers. He had a terrible plan to make a one world theocracy. He failed at it, so Bush was to be the proxy. He would rule through Bush, and Bush did institute the Patriot Act, and the false flag I warned about in the Immortals is there, and that was to suspend all our rights, and then Robertson would be president, and we'd have a change to the one world society and reset. The X represents the final solution. Every time Elon flashes this,
that bothered me since day one. What the F is this X? As soon as
I was supposed to do this. I was supposed to be the X. X was supposed to sound cool like a brand name.
No, it's cancel out. It's like
it's cancel out. It's yes, like changing neural enhancer to Neuralink to enslave us.
And this black magic sigil appears every time you go to Twitter. Here's the X right in front of your face.
That means that we consent to our own annihilation and the annihilation of our loved ones. Because the longevity program is being developed. It has been successful with Stanford IBM developing it. And now it's ready to be instituted. They don't need the rest of the population. So they're just chewing at the bit to institute the reset right now. So one of the things I was told was they didn't know what to do with me. With me, they were going to kill my sons and have me enter it. It was like, that's why I was just shown this. Spock, in again, Universal Studios Paramount actually, where the tech went, they have Spock watching his planet explode and die, where he's helpless to help them. That's what's supposed to happen to me. I'm supposed to watch humanity die, be in the reset, and I wasn't able to save them. I'm Spock.
Well, what does a reset look like to you? Can you explain?
The murder of millions of individuals that were not selected by the elite to share this planet anymore because they're not needed because of the longevity program, where we can make a sustainable planet where we will make it where it's only a select few. And then you have a servitude class of beautiful young men and women that are also sex slaves. That'll be the servitude class to serve the elite, which is done in Squid Games.
Well, this is on the Georgia Guidestones. You got to take the population.
It's on the Georgia Guidestones. That's right. That's to get us all talking. It's to be put in plain sight. Now, what's interesting is this is what was supposed to happen to me. I'm supposed to be part of the reset because I was considered an asset in the bloodlines, but I'm supposed to watch myself fail to save my children, my sons, the rest of humanity that I stayed on to make a difference for while I'm mocked by that humanity. So it goes back to what we said about how I first was approached. I was lifted, shown those surrounding me, saying, I'd be honored in the heavens, not on the earth. But do I regret what I've done? No. I'm glad I saw it through. And it feels wonderful at this point to have gone through it. I appreciate the compassion and humility training because that makes you able to withstand anything. And I like who I am in the end. I'm not ego. I feel free. I feel that everything possible I could do, just like Neo in the screenplay. Jim Reese, he did everything possible and then gets to see the fruits of everything happen where a world is renewed. He is fighting for a good one world order because a one world order is imminent. So he's going to at least try to make it available to all in a peaceful way. And that's what I'm doing in my own life, where they said they put me in my own story. Yeah. So here I am. And I feel very good about all I've done. And the mockers are looking a little more stupid every day.
Yeah.
And it just, what are they trying to achieve? The proof is all here. We got it all. And like you said at the beginning, when you've got your high school birthday, dad's name, and whether, you know, and the clock, I mean, come on. Is there even going to be an argument?
Yeah. You can't deny it.
It's just, It's ridiculous to try. I'd be embarrassed to be the ones on the other side trying, including Sophia Stewart. I'd be embarrassed to be her off the charts. If I were her, I'd try to create genuine work and actually write a screenplay if she thinks she's got it in her. Just do
Right.
the work. Don't try to do it off of others or capitalize off others. Just do the work. We did. Thank you for
Yeah. Yeah, man. This has been an amazing interview, man. It's a great honor. I'm so happy I met you at the alien event, but I think spirit works in these, ways where it just aligns. You call it synchrony or whatever. And I didn't even know you're going to be there. I just happened that I saw you and we immediately connected. We had a good energy, became friends right away. And here you are, and here we're talking about your story. And I'm so happy. I feel honored that you're doing this, brother.
Well, it was, thank you. Same here. It was meant to happen because Avatar is what that insider, Frank Ayala, who's endorsed by Warner Brothers attorneys, said that Avatar and my work was ripped off at the same time in the same way.
Whoa.
Yeah, same way. He told me that on the tape.
And
so,
John Carpenter?
yeah, so that's why they stuck the jacks in the neck into Avatar. Jacks in the back of the neck. The braided things are the back of the
Oh
neck.
my gosh, dude.
Yeah, yeah, and the tree of memories. That's what I had, the library of memories. So they stuck everything in there, and they even called him Jake, which is my nephew's name. That's now strange to me.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
cats' names, Max and Oliver, I think it was, are our cats' names, which keep popping up. And so Tom is the one that is murdered. Tom is murdered, and Jake takes his place, his body. So Avatar. So it's all there. Grace is there. Grace, the character, the guy that you said, like that's Morpheus, the name. That's something
Yeah, man.
mind-blowing, isn't it? Yeah.
That's a whole nother different story then.
Oh,
It seems
story.
like they're using these films to program their agendas, their religions, their concepts of what they think is spiritual.
Well, here's something really wild is I'm told this is not an ego thing for me
Right.
because I like humility and compassion. I'm told that certain high ups are afraid of this person right here because I was trained on the inside. I was to be the darkest and I chose not to, even in the face of those I was trying to help slapping me. It's like trying to carry people out of a fire and they're beating you up as you're carrying them out. And it's tempting just to drop them, but I had to keep carrying them out.
Don't you have a royal background, Tom? Isn't there?
Yes, Swiss royalty, Troxel. So there's a castle, there's a lake, there's a forest in outside Bern, Switzerland. And it's interesting that I don't think it was chosen on purpose, but Alan Dulles during the CIA time during World War II when it was formulating operated out of Bern, Switzerland. So the bloodline of the Swiss royalty is very important to the agencies. And to be Swiss royal,
Yeah.
big. So that's why I was also chosen to lead.
Yeah, there's no coincidence that you end up a monk amongst other elite people who are, you're royal, huh? Let's see
Right.
what's inside your
And it's
DNA.
an opportunity for us to look at the timelines, how they'll hijack a timeline. They put this in also Star Trek with the Captain Archer series and stuff, where they had the timeline taken and the time travelers. But it's like the timeline where I was supposed to lead, you'd be a leader, but I was given just to stay true, and the timeline will naturally write itself. And I look unfamiliar now, but when I lead, when I'm in my own skin in the proper positions, it'll look natural. It will look like, yeah, Tom was made to do this, and I'll do my part to do the betterment as best I can, working with other people to do the betterment. It's not egos for us; it's a remnant.
Right.
People, that's why I put in the thing also remnant. That's why they call it biblical names in the Matrix. But remnant would gather, and we'd form a think tank to solve world problems by people who have also compassion and humility and cross disciplines to solve problems. We could get a lot done very quickly with that in place. No egos involved. And I appreciate your presence and spirit and who you are. I recognized you right away. And I just felt very much at peace. And I was told at the end of my cup venture that at the end, like at the end of the Job story, I would meet those that would be a comfort to me, that would have the heart, and I would see that I wasn't alone the whole time.
You mean that's what came in the
That's
message
what was given.
from?
Yes, that was given. That's why the ending is all about the gathering. Yeah. Yeah, of all different races and cultures.
But that wasn't the Wiskashi message. That was a whole different message.
Yeah, they stuck it. They kept it with glory and fame. Like I cannot stand the Keanu Reeves version that they had instituted, where he's yeah, they got the lost part of it, where he's lost in this like I'm the one, but they never show the compassion, humility, or commitment.
They
They just
pulled
show
it
a
out.
lost guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It maybe
Yeah.
works for his acting qualifications, but not for what it should be. So I look forward to having the right people be the right
Mhm.
parts, and they're scared to death of this happening. That's why they're going to
Yeah.
push Matrix 5 forward. They said they're going to go back to do it over. That the Wachowskis did it wrong. Well, the Wachowskis own it. Why can you? How can you redo it without them? You know, as the writers, it doesn't make any sense. They're
Yeah.
replaced on assassins are being replaced now. So they're throwing Larry a bone by saying you'll be an executive producer. Well, that doesn't have to do anything with the creative process. So they're bringing another writer in to do it or do over. They said it was done badly. So now they want to go back and do it over with my work. They're thinking that means I'd have to be eliminated, but I'm not going in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but the question remains: why is this stuff being restored to our home? Why these things are huge? These original drafts
Yeah.
being placed in my bedroom after they were clearly stolen. There's a message being given here, and that message is an important one. And I would think as we switch sides, we're on your side now.
Well, like you said, they're infighting. Maybe there's some that are rooting for you.
Very much so. I've had contacts from people that are part of the agencies that said, we hope to see you in the papers with justice restored. Your story is fascinating. They always use the story is fascinating thing. From NASA, agencies, Hollywood, you name it. In fact, producers from Hollywood, there's one producer called me and said they're still using the technique where you, different things I had in mind, where you run this movie for about 12 minutes and then you do the credits. And the credits are a tease of how could this tie together, and you feed it just like they did Jumanji. So that's done all the time now. They do it all of them do it all the time. They copycat it. You're never as good as the original if you're a copy. And it goes for creative abilities also. So I never want to do copy. And they said everything's been done under the sun. I told them, no, it hasn't. There's so many different variations. That's why I wanted to give my work to many, many people so that they can do their variations of it. And that's the way copyright's supposed to work. That's the way patents are supposed to work. You bring it to fruition, the original publisher, and then allow others to take it from there to next levels. That's the way it's supposed to work. Not anybody gets there first, like a janitor entering your trash can run down because he heard you talking about it. He's the first one. Oops, it's his now. He has no idea, like Elon Musk, how to implement it, where he's actually talking about putting these filaments that are spike-like to perforate what your brainstem. Are you saying they'll do minimum damage? He didn't read far enough into the screenplay where in the beginning, yes, Neo winces at the interrogation scene in his home where they put the pin-like structure in and it pierces. But later, it's an adaptive collar that doesn't perforate any tender membranes. What it is it's adaptive collar that resonates through. And apparently Elon hasn't studied enough of the script yet to understand that. So,
yeah.
It's frustrating. I'll tell you that much. Anyway, thank you for doing this. So,
yeah, brother.
Just don't give up. Like my son said, never give up.
Yeah, well, this is part of this message that you got that you're going to be coming together with others to bring this out. And this is exactly what we're doing right now. So
right now, I think this was historic. This was meant to be. There's no accident we met. Here's the avatar thing. I mean, that sure spoke to me. So I felt like you were a brother right away. And, you know, I mean, the evidence is so unreal. I mean, so strong, so layered that the other side's trying to say there's too much evidence now. Well, how can you have too much evidence when they have none? Keep in mind, the reason they have I have that taping of them saying they have no working drafts is because Rankin gave me the wrong tape recorder back. The moron gave me the wrong tape recorder back at the end of my deposition. He handed me the wrong tape recorder. So I had everything he recorded, thinking he had kept me from it. And then included them saying, which I'm going to be posting very soon now, we're putting on the website, their own words from the top attorney, Linda Burrow, from Warner Brothers, saying it's a moot point to ask for any discovery, initial disclosures, because we have no working drafts. Nowhere, no working drafts.
Are you working on other stories or scripts?
Already have. I've got 16 more going on.
Wow.
Yeah, but guess where they are? They're buried in a trash bag.
Of course, you got to hide it and protect it now.
They're not on digital form. They're in paper. So that's what's driving Disney crazy. With the Bob Iger contact, he was like, you know, let's see these. Let's see these. I'm like,
Yeah, of course. You learned your lesson. You ain't gonna be
Yeah.
seeing anything you get.
that's what keeps my son alive. I said,
Yeah.
anything happens to my son, those are destroyed.
Yeah.
They really got affected by that. That's how you deal with them. And that's what I would say to people is learn what matters most to them. If you're involved heavily in this kind of stuff, learn what they are concerned about most and then act according to on those guidelines. Turn their playbook into yours and you can switch it on them. And we're winning. We're winning. And if anybody else is going to come forward and try to mock with like, you had your day in court, please don't bore me. It's boring. You guys look like idiots when you do. We got this. It's evident. The evidence you allow me to show is clear. So, I mean, amazingly clear that the attorneys from the other side are saying this is the greatest story, along with Trump's family and Roseanne Barr. So I'd say game's over, and it was Disney's attorneys that said, you've won the chess game, Tom, by doing what my son said to do, my last surviving son. Do these interviews that you're doing right now. We win again tonight. So thank you for being a part of that and the real life story. That's what the work was to do, to bring us together. Good minds.
It's a great honor, brother. And I want to say, do you have any last messages before we close tonight?
Yes, anybody out there who's considering harming yourself, anything like that, or giving up, don't. It's going to get much better. You'll be glad you were around to see it happen. I want to see you around to see it happen. I mean this with all that compassion that's activated in me. Don't take yourself out of this. Don't let the fooling of the man behind the curtain, the woman behind the curtain, get you in despair. Realize something amazing is coming. You want to be there for it. And you are a part of it. And you're what helped makes it amazing. So don't feel like you're worthless. You are worth a lot in humanity, in life. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for your compassion, Tom. It's a great honor to have you tonight. And I think it's going to move a lot of people. A lot of people are going to, I encourage people to go out and look at Tom's story. He's been interviewed by other people. And before we leave, Tom, can you share people how they can, what sites you have or how they can reach you?
All my sites were being struck, but we got one. Jen Marie is from Michigan. She's amazing. She did it on her own. She came up with this whole website. She made it memorable because I would forget things. I was on the story. I'm always on the story. TomAlthouse.com. So TomAlthouse.com is going to have everything on it. And we'll keep going there. And we protected it. So go to TomAlthouse.com. You'll see it. On Facebook, I'm maxed out right now.
Yeah.
But apparently they're being very selective of who they remove. They're actually removing friends that are hosts right before showtime. So we've experienced this also. So so it's interesting how the different factions are reacting. But it's like a boiling pot where it's all just coming to a head. And we'll be okay on top of it.
That's a sign that you're doing something right, or not for them, but it's a sign that they're nervous and they got to stop it. Desperation.
And I would also say, whoever you are that reinserted the missing evidence, which is a slam dunk in the courts to come up, thank you for believing, and thanks for doing that, and thanks, I don't know how you got it, but thanks for restoring what mice took from men. So thank you so much.
Somebody's watching out for you, brother.
Thank
you so much, Tom. We'll keep in touch, and you're a brilliant guy. You have so much to share. I'm sure we could even have you on for another show we can talk about. So thank you again.
If you want to do it, I'm there. I also had a change. I want to tell you, I'm now able to receive compliments now. I couldn't do it before. That humility thing I took to heart and everything. But now I can hear it and I can share it back and go like, thank you, and get closer connections with people. And I'm very honored to be connected with you. So thanks.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Thank you for everyone who watched, and we'll see you again.